There's a voice inside you. It whispers when the alarm goes off, when the deadlines pile up, when you stare at the blank screen for hours and still can't move. It says, "You're lazy. You're weak. What's wrong with you?" And you believe it. Because that's what they've told you. That success means movement. That rest is failure. That struggle is your fault. But what if that voice is wrong? What if you're not lazy, but lost, not unmotivated, but misaligned, not weak, but carrying something heavy your conscious mind can't see? Carl Jung didn't see laziness the way the world does. He saw it as a signal, a message from the unconscious, trying to be heard through your exhaustion. Maybe your soul is resisting a path that isn't truly yours. Maybe your mind is protecting you from a deeper pain. Maybe the part of you that won't try is the part that's most afraid of failing, or never being enough, or being seen for who you really are. So before you shame yourself again, pause. There's something in that stillness, something ancient, something waiting. This isn't a video about productivity hacks. This is a conversation about the truth behind your resistance. Because you're not broken, you're just overdue for a deeper kind of understanding. And that journey begins here. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, not work harder, not fix your mindset, but accept yourself." That one idea challenges everything we've been taught, because in today's world, the moment you slow down, hesitate, or feel tired, you're labeled lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined. But Carl Jung wasn't interested in surface labels. He dove deep, beneath behavior, beneath judgment, into the unconscious. And what he found was this: many of the things we hate about ourselves are actually misunderstood cries from the soul. In this video, we're going to look at laziness not as a weakness, but as a message, a psychological and even spiritual message from the parts of you that are unseen, unheard, and unintegrated. Because here's the truth: what we call laziness is often grief that has no name, exhaustion from carrying expectations that were never ours, resistance that rises when the life we're living is out of sync with who we really are. Jung believed the psyche isn't just a mind, it's a map, and when parts of that map are ignored or denied, they rebel, not with violence, but with silence, with heaviness, with inertia. So this isn't about motivation, it's about meaning. It's about understanding why certain tasks drain your spirit, why you avoid goals you once chased, why you feel frozen while everyone else seems to move. Because until you understand what's underneath your so-called laziness, you will keep fighting a shadow instead of facing the truth. And the truth might just set you free. You weren't born lazy. No child enters the world with shame for resting or guilt for not doing enough. They play, they explore, they pause when they need to. They're in tune with their inner rhythm. So where did that voice come from? The one that now calls you lazy every time you pause. It came from the outside. From systems that value productivity over presence. From schools that reward obedience, not inner growth. From workplaces that equate exhaustion with success. From social media, where everyone seems to be building, grinding, scaling, winning. In this world, stillness is suspect, and if you're not moving fast enough, you're failing. But Carl Jung rejected this idea completely. He believed that the psyche was not a machine to be optimized, but a living organism to be understood. And what we call laziness is often the psyche's way of resisting a life that doesn't feel meaningful. Let's look closer. The myth of constant productivity. You've been taught that effort equals worth, that if you're not producing something, you're wasting time. But Jung would say, what if your lack of energy isn't failure, but a protest? A protest against inauthentic living, a protest against tasks that drain the soul, a protest against expectations you never chose. Burnout, disguised as laziness. Maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you're burned out from emotional labor, from masking your emotions, forcing positivity, pretending to care. Burnout doesn't always look like dramatic collapse. Sometimes it looks like avoiding emails, staring at screens, cancelling plans, numbing with endless scrolling. We call it laziness, but it's actually a depletion of psychological energy, trauma, and inner resistance. Sometimes your body won't let you move forward because part of you is still in survival mode. Laziness can be a trauma response, a way your nervous system protects you from repeating past pain. If you grew up in chaos, neglect, or constant criticism, the act of doing nothing might be your first taste of safety. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. The cost of ignoring the inner life. Modern life doesn't reward introspection. There are no medals for sitting quietly with your feelings, no trophies for healing unseen wounds. But Jung believed that the health of a person depends on the integration of the unconscious. And when your inner life is ignored long enough, it pushes back, not with rage, but with resistance, not with drama, but with what we call laziness. So before you judge yourself for feeling stuck, ask yourself, is this task truly aligned with my values? Am I emotionally exhausted from pretending? Is my body trying to protect me from pain I haven't processed? The answers won't come from productivity apps or motivational slogans. They come from listening inward, to the part of you that's been whispering all along, I'm not lazy, I'm tired of pretending. Carl Jung didn't view human behavior through the lens of judgment. He viewed it through meaning. When someone appeared lazy or directionless, he didn't ask, why aren't they working harder? He asked, what part of the psyche is being ignored? Jung believed that behind every dysfunction lies an inner conflict, a battle between who we think we should be and who we really are. Let's break this down into 4 powerful Jungian concepts that reframe laziness not as a flaw, but as a message. 1. The shadow, your hidden truths in disguise. We all have a shadow, a collection of traits, desires, fears, and memories we've rejected or buried. It might contain the part of you that's angry, the part that wants rest, the part that doesn't want to please others anymore, the part that says, this life doesn't fit me. Jung taught that the more we repress these truths, the louder they become, not with words, but with behavior. When you feel lazy, it might be your shadow acting out, saying, I'm done pretending. I don't want this version of success. You've been ignoring me for too long. So what we label as laziness might just be the part of you that can no longer betray itself. 2. Persona versus true self, the mask. We can't maintain your persona is the mask you wear to survive in society. It's the curated version of you, polished, productive, presentable. But the true self lives underneath. It's raw, honest, complex. Here's the tension. The more you try to live only through your persona, chasing approval, achievements, image, the more your soul resists. And when the gap between the persona and the true self becomes too wide, Jung says the psyche revolts, not dramatically, but silently. You'll feel numb, heavy, unmotivated. It's not that you don't want to act. It's that your true self refuses to keep faking. 3. Psychic energy blockages. Why you can't force motivation. Jung viewed psychological energy like a river. It flows toward meaning. If something feels true and aligned, energy appears. If something feels hollow or imposed, energy withers. This explains a common experience. You can stay up all night researching a passion project, but struggle to answer one email at work. You're not broken, you're blocked. Your energy knows when something lacks soul. That sluggishness you call laziness. It's your unconscious saying, there is no life force in this task, and you can't force your way through it, you can only listen. 4. Inner saboteur or inner protector. The role of complexes. Jung believed we are made of many parts, not just one unified self. Some of those parts are wounded, scared, or frozen in time. He called them autonomous complexes, fragments of the psyche that operate independently of our conscious will. So when you procrastinate or self-sabotage, it's not because you hate success. It might be because an unconscious part of you learned long ago that success makes you a target. Trying and failing is too painful. If you slow down, you won't get hurt again. That voice in your head saying, don't try, it's safer to hide, isn't your enemy, it's your protector. But like a child left in charge, it can only operate in fear until you bring it into awareness. Bringing it all together. Laziness, through the Jungian lens, is never just about willpower. It is a shadow crying to be acknowledged, a true self resisting the persona, a loss of psychic energy due to lack of meaning, a protector acting out an old survival pattern. It's the psyche trying to restore balance, alignment, and truth. So the next time you find yourself stuck, don't just push through it. Ask, is this task aligned with who I really am? What part of me is resisting, and why? Is my soul saying no, even when my mind says yes? Because until you address what's underneath, you'll keep calling yourself lazy when in fact, you're longing to be whole. Now let's step out of theory and into lived experience, because Jung's wisdom wasn't meant to stay in academic books, it was meant to touch real lives, to help us see ourselves with clarity and compassion, especially when we feel most broken. Let's walk through 4 real-life stories that show how laziness was actually a misunderstood signal and how everything changed when it was listened to. 1. I'm not lazy. This job is killing my soul. Story of Alex, 27, marketing professional. Alex was always top of the class, sharp, efficient, graduated early, landed a corporate job with good pay. Everyone said he was going places. But 1 year into the job, something shifted. He couldn't get out of bed. Emails went unanswered. Deadlines passed like waves, and he just stopped caring. He thought he was lazy, depressed, broken. But therapy revealed something deeper. Alex had spent his entire life becoming who others wanted him to be. The achiever, the golden child. But deep down, he loved stories, psychology, people. Jung would say his persona, the image of the perfect professional, was strangling his true self. Once Alex gave himself permission to explore other paths, he slowly came alive again. He didn't quit overnight, but he stopped calling himself lazy. He started listening, and from that came the first steps toward a life that felt real. 2. I thought I was just procrastinating, but I was still grieving. Story of Maya, 34, new mother, artist. After Maya's father died, she returned to her art studio. She told herself she needed to keep going, stay busy, be strong. But the canvas stayed blank. For months. She blamed herself. Why can't I just create? This is what I love. But love requires presence, and Maya wasn't present. She was still grieving. Jung would say her psychic energy was turned inward. Her unconscious was processing a major loss, and the energy she usually gave to painting had been redirected toward healing. The laziness was not failure. It was the soul tending to wounds that had no words. When Maya gave herself permission to grieve fully, something opened. One night, she picked up the brush again. Not to perform, not to produce, but to feel, and what came out was the most honest work of her life. 3. I wasn't unmotivated, I was living someone else's dream. Story of David, 23, law student. David had always been told, be a lawyer, it's secure, it's respectable. So he did. But by his 3rd year, he was skipping classes, failing exams, and sleeping all day. He called himself lazy, even his professors did. But one day, while journaling, he wrote, I feel like I'm slowly disappearing. That sentence broke something open. David realized he had no love for the law. He was doing it for validation, not vocation. What he did love? Filmmaking, stories, human behavior. Carl Jung would say David was caught in a life path that didn't resonate with his inner archetypes. His soul was starving for creative expression. David didn't drop out right away, but he started writing scripts in secret. He made short films on weekends, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. His laziness was the psyche rejecting an inauthentic life. 4. I kept freezing before every opportunity, but it wasn't fear of success. Story of Layla, 29, aspiring entrepreneur. Layla had dreams, big ones. She'd build a website, sketch out a business plan, then stop, every time. She thought she was self-sabotaging, lazy, weak. But in therapy, something surfaced. As a child, every time she tried to shine, she was shut down. Told not to show off, told to stay small. So part of her believed, if I succeed, they'll leave me, I'll lose love. Her procrastination was not laziness, it was protective. Jung would call this a complex, a cluster of emotional energy tied to early wounds. Layla's unconscious was trying to keep her safe, not small. Once she brought that belief into the light, everything changed. She wrote a letter to her younger self. She forgave the fear. She took one small action toward her business. And this time she didn't freeze. These stories are not about weakness. They are about awakening. Behind every lazy moment is a part of the soul trying to speak, trying to be seen, heard, understood. Carl Jung taught us that wholeness doesn't come from fixing ourselves, but from listening deeply to what we've been taught to silence. So when you feel stuck, remember, it's not always a sign to push harder. Sometimes it's a sign to listen closer. Because what you call laziness, there might just be the first whisper of your most honest self. Let's step back. Let it all settle. Because by now, maybe something has shifted inside you. Not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet click. A recognition. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're human. And being human means carrying layers of pain, pressure, memory, and meaning beneath every visible behavior. Here are the truths to carry forward from this journey into Jung's wisdom. 1. Laziness is often a message, not a mistake. That heaviness you feel, that resistance to action, it may not be weakness, but your soul pulling the emergency brake. Jung believed that when our outer lives stop reflecting our inner truth, the psyche pushes back. It withdraws energy, not out of malice, but out of mercy. So next time you feel stuck, ask not, how do I push through? Ask, what is my soul trying to protect? What part of me is not being heard? 2. Your failures might be your soul's protests, missing deadlines, sleeping late, procrastinating on tasks you should care about. We're quick to judge. But what if those behaviors are protests against a path that no longer fits? Jung teaches us that the unconscious resists what doesn't serve our wholeness. And sometimes failure is your soul saying, not this, not like this. 3. Healing requires listening, not forcing. Modern life says, hustle harder, fix yourself, crush your goals. But Jung says, descend, listen, integrate. Laziness can be a call to rest, to grieve, to reflect, to reconnect. And until you answer that call, no amount of productivity will feel meaningful. 4. There's no shame in being lost. Every soul goes through winter, periods of confusion, fatigue, withdrawal. They're not signs of failure, they're invitations to transformation. Carl Jung believed that individuation, becoming your truest self, requires moving through darkness, not avoiding it. So if you're here in the quiet, feeling behind or unmotivated, maybe this is where your real work begins, not in fixing what's wrong, but in discovering what's real. 5. Your energy returns when you're aligned. Motivation isn't something you force. It's something you find when your life aligns with your inner world, when you do work that matters, when your actions reflect your values, when you stop pretending. Then, slowly, steadily, your energy comes back. Not because you pushed harder, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. One last whisper. The next time you call yourself lazy, pause, breathe, and instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Ask, what truth am I not living? What pain haven't I faced? What would change if I stopped judging and started listening? Because maybe your resistance is not a wall, but a door. And on the other side, your real life is waiting. If something stirred inside you during this video, don't brush it off. That stillness you felt, that lump in your throat, that quiet ache when you saw your story reflected on the screen, that wasn't just content. That was your soul responding. You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to have your whole life figured out by tomorrow morning. But you can start with one question. What if I'm not lazy, but unheard? And then, let that question echo. Write about it. Sit with it. Talk to someone who understands. Or maybe, just stop punishing yourself for being human. Because you were never meant to be a machine. You were meant to be whole. Jung didn't want you to be productive. He wanted you to be conscious, to live a life that belongs to you, not to your programming, to trust that the places where you feel blocked might just be the places where something new wants to break through. So if this message found you at the right moment, don't let it be the last one. Tell us in the comments, what did this video awaken in you? What part of your laziness might actually be sacred? And if you want more soul-deep content like this, about Jung, shadow work, purpose, and inner healing, subscribe, like, share this with someone who feels lost. Because maybe they're not lazy either. Maybe they're just waiting for someone to say, I see you, and there's more to you than you've been told. This was Carl Jung on why you're not actually lazy, and this is your invitation to finally stop running from yourself and begin listening, gently, bravely, to the voice within. See you in the next one.